with this watercolor on a watercolor canvas it's a watercolor canvas panel, and I put masking fluid for the clouds so that will stay white. And then we've put in our little mountain range here and done the water with little thin watery strokes with the tip of this brush. And this is the same brush. This is a number 4. Actually, this is a number 6 round. And I'm going to use that same pointy tip to outline my banks, or in like some people, the coastline is back here. So you can see the indication that there is, you know, the soil from underneath the trees back there. You can also see the reflection of the mountains in the water. And so you get your paintbrush wet, but only use the tip of it in your paint. And you take a lighter shade of what your foreground is going to be to outline it. And you use the point is like your pencil. It's like you're using it like a pencil. So you're literally just outlining. Now remember, watercolors dry lighter than what you're putting them on. That's why you want to do a swatch sheet for your colors. And the more layers, the darker it is. So you want to leave some light spots in there. So I put the foundation first of the one side. And now I'm just coming out into the water to show that there is a little bank there. And you can make it as, you know, I just follow how the water actually has made it come out. And the strokes from before. And I need just a little bit more. And I'm just putting the tip of my brush in the paint so that I'm picking up a specific thick amount of it so I can outline this little shoreline. So I'm doing the lighter portions first so I can put in the darker shadows. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. As you can see, I'm going to follow kind of in and out of what my water strokes are. So I'm going to make sure this has got a good bit of water on it. And the way you get your point is you roll. You literally roll your paintbrush in the paint. And all that paint puddles down to the point, and that's where you want it. So I'm going to start my distance part back here. Come out just a little. And just kind of follow the previous strokes. As you can see, I haven't added any water to it. I'm just going to go back in at that little puddle of paint in there and give us a nice little edge. Now I haven't decided what I'm going to do after getting my shoreline in there, what kind of vegetation I want to put in. But this is just to show you how to outline your shoreline or your bank. This one's kind of have deeper indentations in it than this side, because I've got the water coming this way. And just kind of, and then clean the brush off on the canvas, which puts in the light shades of green where I want them. The darker shades in watercolor to me is your detail. So when you start doing the second layers and making it darker, then that's when you're putting in the detail. And I'm making this almost like a wash, but it's just a dilution of the color that I'm using. Because it's going to be lighter on the inside because the light is coming in this way. So we want to leave those light spots. But we also want to indicate shadows. So I take a darker shade of the same green, because you have the dark shade of it, and then you have the light. And that's, you find that out by doing your swatches. And I'm going to come down here to the water's edge and start putting in the little banks that are formed under it. And just like this side, do the same thing. Now you can do this with any color that's already in your painting. You don't have to do, the greens. I just like doing the green because it kind of like give it a little bit of a pop to come across the front here. And since it's closer, it should be just as dark as that one. I'll steal some of that paint from there. That way it's dark at the top, or it would overlap. And then come up to this little point that came out. Now I can go in after this is all dried and put as much detail in there as I want. Right now I'm just doing it to show you how to, and I'm literally putting it almost exactly straight up. So the more vertical your brush is, the round brush with the point, the more fine line you're going to get. Okay? So you're going to get more of a fine line that way when you go vertical. I mean, now it's dried out, so I get a little bit more color. These are soothing colors, and that's why I like to paint with them a lot. So it also allows you to show more depth and detail. A very jagged edge on this other side that I ended up with. That's okay. And as you go back, it starts to fade a little. Just like in there. And when you let it puddle a little bit, it gives you a bit of a dark spot. And those are the gems, I call them. So when it gives you that little bit of dark spot. So with that, now I need to make sure I make a mental note to keep the light areas. I'm going to fade those dark spots up into it and then pull it through like this. And because I want that color to continue on. I don't want it to be like super dark. I'm going to put some vegetation in there, obviously. And it's wet. I'm using the point to pull it through so that it's still light. And when I want to put something really dark in there, I can. Same with over here. So I'm going to leave that highlight, leave this highlight here, and then darken it in. And it's a grassy area, so it's going to be a little blotchy. At least mine ends up being a little blotchy. And put the darkest part forward. I don't want to make it too dark because I do want to put something there that you'll be able to see. Must be a shadow or something. Different shades of green are going to show up throughout. like this. With this little springy kind of green. And leaving that spot should be like a sunny spot. I'm using a lighter green so it's not as dark for this side. And now to indicate the light on the top end of it, use the lightest shade and just kind of outline it with that dark underneath. And that gives you that dimension. And then right along the top of the dark part here. And then it blends in really well. So I have a little light spot there from the sunlight on this side. And I haven't decided exactly what I want to do over here. So, and I'll do the reverse on the other side. I didn't plan this one out, so in other words, what I mean is I didn't pre-sketch it out on here. This is all free painted, and trying to keep some light spots. Now I'm thinking I'm going to put a big tree. The trick with the tree is, gotta see, do I have masking fluid here? No, I do not. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this brush out. It's number 6. And this big guy is for my trees. This is a 12 round edge. I'm gonna wet it. And then, I'm left-handed, so I kind of have to turn my pick because I don't want my tree to be all kind of cockeyed. So, I'm going to take the darker brown because I can lighten it up with yellows and whatnot. And actually, no. I need 2 trees over here. So I'm going to do the lighter. I want it pretty wet. I'm going to have a little bit of a puddle in your watercolor pot. And I'm going to put one. Hopefully this is dry enough. I don't want it to run too much. I'll be able to tell when I first put it down here. Okay, it's not going to run too much. So I've got a lot of paint on the tip of this brush. And this little tree is going to go kind of like here. And this is a lighter brown because it's further away. Just using that very pointy tip. Now, I don't know about, a lot of people will go ahead, let it dry, and then do the leaves for that tree. But what I'm going to do is put the bigger tree in front of it. And to do that, I'm going to make sure I got enough water in this brush and the darker brown. That's real thin, so it should dry fairly quickly. And then I'm going to start this big tree here. In front of it. And it's going to reach all the way up like this. Okay. Take more of that darker brown. And it's okay that the green is in there, or that the sky color is under there, because it would be there. And then you just kind of pull it over the top. And I'm rolling it just like I did with the other. And this is like the second layer. Give it that kind of bark look and the shadow backside. Now it's starting to bleed a little bit. That's okay because of it being wet. And then this piece is going to split right there. I'm going to put a little. I'm just using the very point on this. Now keep in mind, I know this is going to dry lighter, just like the one behind it has dried lighter. And use the point, it's like drawing with a pencil. So, and you pull that all the way to the back. Or to the edge, I should say. You just kind of decide where you want your branches at. Little skinny point goes a long ways. As long as you got it, loaded up with a good amount of paint, it's going to do exactly what you want it to do. Now you want this to totally dry before you put your leaves on. You definitely want that to totally dry, okay? So we've got a lot of really good branches going here. And I'll fill that one in. So when it dries, you get to see whether you need to add another layer to it or not. And so at this point, what I would do is go ahead and start removing the clouds. Let me show you what I've got so far so that you can see. You can see how the point of that paintbrush does beautiful detailing. So you can take an eraser and erase off the masking fluid. Me, I like just take, since it's watercolor, I just take my finger and I rub where I can see where I put it, and it comes right up. Now the thing about when you use masking fluid like this, it comes up with still rough edges instead of being like sometimes, because this masking fluid I'm using is really thick. And it took away some of the tree, but that's okay because I'm going to put leaves there. So don't worry if you paint over the masking fluid and you're like, oh shoot, I painted over, I took away part of my tree. That's okay because you're going to put leaves on it anyway. And when you put the leaves on it, it pushes the cloud back. Okay, so that was one that I kind of drew in there. And then there's another one here. I'm just taking my finger and rubbing it across. It comes off like rubber cement. That's basically what it comes off like. And you're going to think, well, that's really choppy looking. Well, we're going to fix that. This is where you can do some blending in. And you see I kind of chopped off the top of my mountain there, but I did that on purpose. Because I want to put like a mist kind of look on top. And just rub it off. Depending on the type of masking fluid, that you use, some of them, it's better to use the eraser. This one I found is much better if I do it with my fingers. I'm just going to rub it off and throw that away. Oh, there's one more I forgot I had down here. And this way, if I decide I don't want a cloud somewhere, I can just paint out of it, paint it out of the picture. Okay, so you can see how it leaves the canvas nice and white for nice white puffy clouds. Now to blend that out, you just take the colors that you have here, real watery, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. And I'm going to take the big brush at first. I always start out with a big one, but it's good and wet. And I'm going to take a light shade of that and just go over that rough edge and smooth it out. And what it does is, being combined with the white behind it, it looks like it's just gradually changing to the white. And the more water you put there, you can even pull that color below it to really soften it out. This has been my experience with it. And if it doesn't do exactly what you want, just take the white or a light wash of gray, and those spots that look still kind of choppy, just paint over them and blend them in. So now you've got this gradual color that goes up into the white. This one down here, you can just straight take out water and just give a little bit of pressure and buff it out. Now some people, and I've done it also, since acrylic is a water-based paint, you can take acrylic white with a fine round tip brush and outline your clouds how you want them. So let's see if I can show you that on here. If I've got my white out here. Yes, I do. And I don't use a silly me, I don't use my palette to do this. I mean, I could just like kind of squirt a little bit of white acrylic into the mixing pots here in the top of this tray, like that. Put some water on the brush. This is the 6, and just put the paint in the tip, only the tip, and then go around. Like, this is not really doing what I want it to do, so I'm going to fill it in with this acrylic white. It'll actually mix with that little light lavender I put in there, but it also is not so translucent, and it covers up that choppy look. And when this dries, it's going to dry white. It's not going to dry, real pale. So I'm going to, because I know you can see those little points that were on there. And I'm just going to soften it out. It's just that when I put the masking fluid on there, it was on there kind of choppy with the brush. I should have used a round tip brush to put the masking fluid on. That's another hint. Use a round tip brush or a filbert. I want to totally take out this pointy look from the bottom of this. And with the white acrylic, you can do that really well. Also, the white acrylic, you can put it for, how clouds will have that really bright white top. So I'm going to outline the top with this bright white that I know is going to dry bright white, because I want the top of this cloud to have this really pop of white on top. So I'm just taking the paint on the tip and I'm outlining it so that white outline stays nice and bright. Now the cool thing I found out with acrylic and watercolor is they actually mix together pretty well. So I can do this real stark white at the top and put a diluted gray on it for a more muted look, and it works. Because like here I have this little spot in the middle of this cloud where it's like, has that purple in it, but you know how clouds will have those layers, so I'll put a little bit of this acrylic white in there, okay? You can also add texture to your watercolors with acrylic white because it's a thicker paint. I'm going to get that white acrylic paint out, clean that brush, let the tip of it get a little bit of gray. Watercolor, I don't want too much, and go underneath that white. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but by adding that little bit of gray watercolor, you add more depth to your cloud or dimension. So I'm just putting it where it would have that natural kind of gray look. Hopefully y'all can see that. That little bit of gray in with the white. And now you can see that cloud has a real bright top. It's real bright up here, has a little bit of gray, and that's the watercolor. And the acrylic and the watercolor actually mix together, which gives it this unique kind of effect. And in the same respect, I can take a, see if this is too dark, to kind of outline the bottom. That acrylic down there, I can put watercolor on top of it to give that cloud that dark bottom. Okay. So now you can see where it has that kind of look. You can even take a little more water and draw it up into there if you like. Experiment with it and let it dry and see if that's, you know, the effect you're looking for. Or where in this gray area I want a bright spot, just put a little dab of the white acrylic and bring it on down, and then you get this really pretty light lavender kind of shadow in it. And so that's basically how you can really play around with mixed mediums. And when this tree is dry, of course I'm going to do the clouds and then do the tree over top of it. So play around with masking fluid, and I think you'll really like the use of it, how it helps you to fine-tune your clouds. Sometimes even in the water, if I want a real bright spot, I'll take just a, I mean literally just a dot of acrylic white and just go here so that it looks like this, the light is hitting it. And it gives that a more, it pops more, gives your painting a little more texture if you like to mix those in like that. Now this here above the mountain in the background, I'm going to add water into that white area. Put in this gray watercolor in that spot. Okay, a dark gray. And so it'll be like a rain cloud hanging over top, you know. The rain clouds have a gray bottom like that. It's almost like lavender gray. And it will cover that. Just like this. Leaving the top white. And then you can take your watercolor white and do the rest of your cloud, or you can use the acrylic white if you like doing the mixed medium. I love doing mixed mediums, as it gives you a lot of different ideas, and it's more fun to add a little texture to a watercolor, in my opinion. But you know, not everybody likes to do it. They want to stay strictly, you know, traditional watercolor. And so that way you can make it really, you know, as this dries, I'll put another layer on it. because I want that dark bottom of the cloud to cover the tip of that mountain. And that's just because that's what I want to do with it. So this is halfway through, and as you can see, it's not difficult to work with watercolors. You just let your layers dry, and as you add more layers, it becomes a beautiful painting. The next video, I'll show you how I do the leaves with the cloud.